I think with the world we live in, it's, you just got to keep encouraging entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs that like dream it and go build it.
Thank you for listening to the Interesting People You Meet podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Newground Financial. Newground Financial is a full-service investment and insurance brokerage firm that specializes in employee benefit plans, corporate insurance, and retirement planning. Newground Financial serves the provinces of Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, Ontario, and Alberta. Find out more at newgroundfinancial.com. Thank you for liking, sharing, and commenting on the Interesting People You Meet podcast across all of your favorite listening platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. By doing so, you are ensuring that more great people just like you have the opportunity to hear from our guests. Thank you, and enjoy the show. So welcome to the Interesting People You Meet. This is episode 39. We have our co-host Nick Matheson and our guest Marc St-Onge. We're super happy to have you here, Marc. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited I got the invite.
Yeah, great. So, Marc, we look forward to learning a lot more about you. I know that clearly Nick Matheson and you know each other quite well. I'm just getting to know you so we can dig into some questions. One question I wanted to kick it off with, Marc, just for my own interest and the audience, is kind of like, what's getting you up in the morning? I know you mentioned you have a young child right now, so clearly that's happening, and you can elaborate on that as well. But what makes you excited right now? What are you chasing after?
For me, I think there was a period of time in the not too distant past that I was not quite as excited about getting up and making my way to the office. But I mean, that's kind of like the undulating ups and downs of the entrepreneur journey. But right now, it's kind of feeling like we've cleared through some rough spots, and I have a couple startups that are just on the cusp of a commercialization phase, and I think that's kind of one of the most critical celebratory kind of moments in an entrepreneur's path, is like when you actually get that idea through all the development, some team building, getting the resource allocation, and then all of a sudden, you actually are giving birth to something that's going to go in the market, and consumers are going to use that. People are going to hopefully talk about it. And so for me, like, that's kind of the energy I'm feeling that kind of gets me up and motivates me to kind of, flip open my laptop, sit down with my team, and kind of start continuing to move through these final steps towards a real life product.
Yeah, that's great. And Marc, for our audience who may not know you, you've been involved in a couple of a handful, 4 businesses at least right now, including your couple of startups. Where did your entrepreneurial journey start? Like, were you an employee before? Did you jump right into this? Like, and where did that kind of come from in your gut to say, this is something I want to do?
I think I don't know, like there's a nurture and a nature component, I think, to entrepreneurialism. I think when I try to trace back, what were the early signs that, I might go down the path of an entrepreneur? And I think it goes all the way back to, 5th grade. I started kind of a little miniature school newspaper. And, it was a lot of nonsense. I would draw some comics. I just write a little bit of commentary on a few things. And I had my mother just run photocopies at her place of work at the time. And I was selling them for, 10, 15. I don't know what the price was, but
Nice.
there was a monetary exchange, because that's when it got shut down. The school authorities did not feel I should be running my journalism business on school grounds. I think kind of even progressing past that, when I had my summers off as a young kid, I'm always kind of thinking, it was never kind of like a quest to make money. But when you could do something that was kind of cool, and then you find out that someone would pay you money for that, and you can buy all kinds of cool shit, that was certainly motivating, when you're like 12, 10, 11, 12 years old. So there was a lot of moments there. I do remember having like a wagon that filled with like cans of Pepsi and Coke and all this stuff that I just wheel it around to different kind of construction sites. Like in the neighborhood, I grew up in an area where it was constantly developing, so there was always things going on, and I just, sell product. Hopefully, it was for more than I actually bought it for, but finances was never kind of my strong suit. But it just kind of evolved over time. It's like it's all I remember kind of doing is kind of generating this idea. Wouldn't it be cool to do this? And eventually, as I got older, I got hopefully more sophisticated in my ideas, and and I think I have a little bit of a creative side to me, and so I'm constantly kind of churning out ideas, but it's kind of eventually led more towards either strong intellectual curiosities or just how can I create something that I think would make the world a better place, and that's kind of more where I eventually got to, and kind of like this current chapter of my life was really kind of was going kind of deep on that idea of what is impact, and how to use a commercial platform to to create something that could have a positive effect in the world.
Awesome.
Marc, I know a quote that you try to embody is "be the change." How would you describe the change, the impact that you want your businesses to have in the world?
Well, that's a really, really good question. I think I do believe you have to be the change, and of course, it's got to start with me, so I can influence how the business shows up in the world. But and to be honest, it's been like the last 3-4 years, maybe 5 years, been quite a struggle, and I have constantly found myself kind of straying off that out of that way of being that I think I needed to how I showed up. So it's been a huge learning. I mean, I think so many entrepreneurs, so many businesses have gone through a major, not just transitions, but extra challenges. I think the world is changing right before our eyes, faster than I think we ever could have. Certainly more than we've experienced in the past. And I think in terms of my personal journey, how I'm looking to learn how to manage energy better, elevated consciousness, really, kind of looking at the we story of how to, bring people together to do, really meaningful, goals. So it's, if anything, like I said, I've kind of now in a place where I'm feeling a little bit more true to myself. Some big lessons have been learned, lessons that I seem to have to learn over and over again. So they get reinforced. But, I think for specifically the impact in the business, there's the direct impact, like how do we create sustainable food systems? How do we create food resiliency? How do we elevate, well-being? These kind of things, certainly those are the, kind of the conventional problem solution entrepreneurs try to identify. But then there's how do you create, healthy, sustainable, resilient companies from the inside out? And so kind of getting down into the inner workings of, people working together, trying to direct ideas, resources, energy in a very useful way that creates the outcomes, and that those outcomes can be sustained. It's, I've worked in wellness for such a long time, and I've kind of seen how, a lot of companies in the wellness and sustainability place, bit hypocritical in the sense that they're promoting something externally to the world, but from an operational, cultural capacity that, you see a lack of. But that's just kind of learned. That's kind of the common, thread we see in business today is we haven't truly learned how to, as a global society, how to build those kind of healthy, sustainable companies. I think, we talk about how our world is full of exploitation, especially natural resources and environmental degradation, but it's like it starts from within. So coming back to my personal kind of pursuit, learning how to manage my energy better, which, like I said, there's been lessons learned, and thankfully, I've at least been aware. I've become very aware when my energy is not in sync, and when I'm not showing up the way I should in, maybe my professional context.
And I know you see health optimization in a very comprehensive way, and some of that is at least inspired by your own kind of health and wellness journey. Do you want to share a little bit about that story and kind of how you got into the wellness space and how that's grown over time?
Yeah, at one point I said, the darkest period of my life was a period of unwellness, with many years of medical doctors, experts not really being able to help me to understand what was going on, not able to help support kind of a redirection of my health. Things were failing, and eventually they were failing quite quickly. So I did experience a complete lack of health, and what that really meant, as far as, kind of an existential crisis of sorts. But I think I needed to see that. I needed to experience that, because it was that experience that kind of propelled me onto the path I am on today. And, it opened my eyes to seeing wellness, health, especially kind of more holistic natural health in a new perspective. So that became then my kind of intellectual curiosity, my entrepreneurial passion was to move into that space, and I co-created North America's first natural compounding pharmacy. So we had a large dispensary of natural ingredients, vitamins and minerals and amino acids and herbs, hundreds and hundreds of different raw materials that then could be compounded into custom solutions for licensed healthcare professionals. So it was really the first kind of approach of personalized well-being, and that business still exists today. I'm only involved as a outsider, kind of looking in, kind of enjoying how it's evolved and continued to thrive over the years. I did exit my partnership to that business, so that then, for me, the next journey was this whole Omega story. And once again, it's kind of seeing, the opportunity to do something that would really elevate, well-being. The omega-3 scientific story goes back to the 70s. And by the time that I kind of became interested in the omega-3 category of natural health products, there was already a large body of evidence to say, hey, if we could increase our consumption of these essential fatty acids, it would have tremendous impact for the well-being of our people, and specifically for inflammatory type, diseases, and for cardiovascular health, which was, back in, I guess, 2000 when I started that particular journey, that was still the number one killer in North America. So then, I went from a compounding company where I had to learn a little bit about a lot of different ingredients. This next chapter was really about focusing on one ingredient category and going really, really deep, figuring out how can we be the best in the world at this particular thing, and developing novel science, manufacturing, and a great brand to help build the category in Canada. And that journey kind of took me all the way to 2015 when I felt, it's again, kind of like I want to start writing, the next chapter. What does that kind of look like? Exited the business and, started building, kind of more of an ecosystem approach. But still, the focus was that intersection of food and wellness, and as well kind of climate.
You had a fairly successful exit from Ascenta Health and then have gone on to several other startups. What lessons did you take away? You talked about the struggle over the last couple of years. What lessons did you take away from the success of your exit and into this ecosystem approach? And what has surprised you? What's been most challenging in that new context?
Yeah, good. Really, really good question. And I often do reflect on kind of what were those lessons that I did learn. I know I learned a lot of lessons. Darn it, did I write them down? I didn't. So my experience as an entrepreneur is like you jump into something and you just jump in wholehearted, like, head to toe, you're in it. And you got to do a lot of things. You got to wear a lot of hats. You got to be scrappy and creative and resourceful. And, I think during the Ascenta Health journey, that's kind of what happened. And I think thankfully the business got traction from the early days and we saw this kind of gradual growth. And I think one of the first lessons is you get to a certain size in your business. So I think as we kind of now, we're a dozen employees and you really start to feel stretched, but the feeling of stretch, which just gets compounded as you get into, 20, I remember when we hit 20 to 25 employees, I was feeling like this is now starting to not feel like a sustained journey, that this is I'm sacrificing a lot of things to be able to kind of further the growth of my business. And the big lesson obviously there is like, you have to start to let go of certain tasks. You need to start to understand the importance of team, the importance of, functional clarity, the importance of aligning people around, clear goals, getting the right people doing the right things together, and building capability in that team. So that was certainly one of the things that I wanted to. One of the big lessons. I've kind of traditionally kind of had this kind of martyr, mentality where I kind of maybe sacrifice too much. When there are problems, when there are challenges, I tend to put it on my shoulders instead of once again realizing that you're a team, like you're an organization that all trying to work collectively to achieve these kind of meaningful goals, and that sometimes I would absorb all the extra and not once again think about how to create the best outcome, which is once again to empower the team sometimes to step up and or at least be more of a collective effort and not a singular effort.
Marc, when it comes to like assembling high performance teams, what strategies have you found most effective, and how can you create create and foster a culture of innovation within your organizations?
I think hiring for as best possible cultural fit as much as the fit on capability and and experience. I think you want people that have relevant skill sets, but at the end of the day, if you just onboard a a group of individuals that, think, oh, these people have done it before and they've excelled in their specific kind of careers and roles in different companies. And, wow, this is my chance to build an all-star team. But, if you basically, build a team of, powerful thoroughbred horses and, and if they're all kind of slightly oriented in a different direction, it just rips you apart. So the idea here is, and once again, one of the key learnings is it's so important to hire, and when I say cultural fit, one of the most important things is to find people that are truly motivated and aligned around the specific, not just commercial goals, but the cultural, societal, environmental impact. I think these are really, really key. And to make sure when you assemble the team is like that there's a clear context for what we're doing, where we are, what are the next phases. I think it's too easy for when you try to diagnose, situations where it feels like the team is a little bit kind of, where there's a little bit of too much friction and, there's not a lot of, there's a reduction in productivity. When you diagnose that, a lot of times it comes back to there's just a little bit of lack of clarity and alignment within the team. I've certainly had that, I've had the experience, especially at Ascenta Health, where, there were times where the team struggled and, then figuring out, okay, why was that? But the exact same team, under different circumstances where there was full buy-in from the team, there was a lot of clarity and context and alignment, then it was just such a different energy, right? We truly felt like there isn't anything that we cannot, accomplish when we're working with this type of energy. And I can't necessarily describe all the attributes other than sometimes there's just a feeling when people just click and work together. So that is, I'm glad that I had the experience of working with, very, very talented people and experiencing when things can feel like they're a bit, challenged and to see, on the, other side of that, how things can come together and it just kind of almost becomes a bit magical.
A lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, sort of grapple with the challenge of like, when do I exit? And you've had an exit. So sort of do you mind sharing a bit of that story? What led to that and what made you feel the time was right?
I think so I've had, I guess, a couple exits now. But I guess the more meaningful one associated with Ascenta Health, it took a trip to Spain with my family to really get clarity as to, is this the time to start kind of writing the next chapter or not, or can that next chapter be with the same company, but, can we create a growth vision that gets me stimulated again? I get as excited to, come to work and engage with this team. I mean, I absolutely, I loved my team that I was working with. And so there was that element of, am I abandoning them? Like, what are they going to think of me if I make this decision? I've had a lot of people kind of, comment, oh, I heard you sold out and things like this. But, and I clearly that was not the case. I think I also needed to learn that you can care tremendous amount about people, but you're not ultimately responsible for them. I needed to get clear in terms of, or just honor the fact that this is my life, my journey. And if there's that inner voice saying, I need some new type of creative endeavor to kind of reignite some kind of, energy or passion in me. Was I the person to bring Ascenta Health to 200 million in sales and run a global company. No, I don't think that's ever, I won't say ever, but that doesn't feel like my energy. I think I'm kind of like true startup guy. I love taking new ideas that don't exist but need to exist. Taking, coming up with that dream, that idea, and just taking the risk. For me, there's a lot of reward for that. It's something that really energizes me. Solving lots of problems around, whether they're technical problems, they're market related, customer, financial. No, I don't really love the financial part so much, but all the other pieces for sure. I think that's kind of where, kind of my genius, my magic kind of happens is kind of, in the more the creative side, versus the scaling side. So
Okay.
for me, it felt, when I took time to kind of go away and, just, reflect on my current situation, I was very confident when I came back. This was definitely the right move. And, and the conditions of the exit, were met, because I do care about the region. I do care about the existing team. I care about the natural health products industry in Nova Scotia. So, finding the right exit partner was very, very important for me, and that was very clear to them from the get-go. And the net was great. They folded all their Canadian operations into our Dartmouth-based business. They've expanded the manufacturing. Overall, the team has expanded. They brought in new product lines. I think ultimately, they have been an important cornerstone of, the growth that in the natural products industry in Atlantic Canada, since that point. So I felt all the boxes were checked, and I felt I kind of started to get that excitement around kind of exploring what comes next for me.
You talked about your energy and passion. What are you most excited about today?
I think it's going back to the beginning of our conversation. I think when you're on the precipice of introducing, something that you've been working so hard to create, over years and years and millions of dollars, and all the people said, "Oh, it can't be done," and the ups and downs, and the 1,000 VCs that rejected you, and you make it this far, and now the market's saying, "Wow, what you guys are doing is exciting. This really has a lot of potential." And so I think we're at a really, really exciting phase. It's certainly exciting for me, and and that's kind of like, fueling the passion. There is like, I can keep that passion during some of the difficult phases, but I think for a lot of people, like, the pandemic was, maybe your business had challenges, and maybe your personal life had challenges, and certainly society had a lot of challenges. And I think it pushed me to my max. And, you start to kind of maybe feel, that spark is kind of feels like it's getting a bit extinguished. And for me, that's not good, because traditionally, I know during the hard times, like I always say, like when you put effort towards meaningful goals, it just creates really good feelings. So it's not so much about always celebrating the wins, but it goes back to the idea that it's more about the journey than the destination. But I did feel like that was kind of starting to wane a bit. and having that feeling back, that spark, and I'm just generally excited about what's to come. That and my 9-month-old daughter certainly helps to
It,
fuel some passion.
it's sometimes hard to trust that that spark will come back when it feels like it's missing or gone somewhere, right? And I agree, we've come through quite a time as a society, and it is exciting to see visionaries like yourself starting to kind of, put that those hard visions or those great visions to hold those and continue to work toward them even through those challenging times. Can you share a little bit about the companies that you're working on right now?
Absolutely. So I already mentioned a little bit about sustainable food. So in 2018, I founded Smallfood, and Smallfood is a biofermentation company that is built a platform around this very unique strain of microalgae that was discovered. And it has the ability to completely displace wild capture fish from both food supply chains as well as feed supply chains. And when we think about some of the challenges, climatic challenges that we're facing as a society, we know that oceans are kind of one of the vital resources that we need to kind of act quickly to safeguard. And I think the many decades of unsustainable exploitive behaviors towards ocean resources is now, coming back to hurt us significantly. So I think, Smallfood can play a really, really big role in transitioning our seafood economy towards something that's truly green and sustainable, yet still equally as nutritious as conventional seafood. Aycoutay Technologies is truly a health technology that is really founded on the electrical or ionic properties of the body. So we have a novel diagnostic scanning technology that measures tissue conductivity. And similar to when we think about the primary bioinformatics of the human body, we can think about our DNA and, blood biomarkers and things like that. But one of the primary languages by which and communication systems that the body uses that also can be used to measure the health of the tissue and the function of the tissue is its electrochemical properties. And so we measure that through tissue conductivity, and using this as a non-invasive real-time scanning technology, we can provide never before seen insights about your functional well-being all the way to the continuum of pathological states. And right now we're doing a lot of work in the field of longevity, and we're actually completing a project where we have been able to demonstrate that a correlation between tissue conductivity and your biological aging or your pace of aging can be established, which becomes a very meaningful biomarker, especially if you can generate those metrics in real time. And then lastly, there is Ben Beauty, which is a nutraceutical company that's really focused on building this concept of beauty from the inside out. So using novel science to show how nutraceutical products can have a very measurable effect in terms of the health and aging of our skin. So this is a complement to the already established, very large kind of marketplace for topical skincare products. But we know that, in this kind of move towards a more holistic way of seeing the world and seeing health, and even now seeing, our skin and the concept of beauty, you absolutely need to focus on the inside out. So thankfully, we've been able to do that with, really credible science, to be able to make, novel claims like UV protection from the inside out. In fact, one of our products was the first ever approved by Health Canada for basically skin aging. So those are the primary things that I focus on today. And at the same time, I'm involved with a few other kind of startups, helping other founders, to kind of navigate, make it a little bit of more of a supported journey for them. As for a lot of times it's their first time kind of being an entrepreneur, and it's part of giving back, and it's work I really enjoy doing as a somewhat experienced entrepreneur who maybe can help people not make the mistakes that I made. And
challenging given the amount that you're stretched and the many hats and so on. How would you distill your best advice to other entrepreneurs on their journey that you've had the opportunity to mentor?
I think the best advice, well, hopefully I've given them some good advice, first of all. But it's easy. Like, I think the early stages of any business, it's overcoming the psychology of, oh my God, I started a business and hell in a minute, what the hell do I do? Because things aren't really working out exactly the way that I thought they would. So, I truly believe that helping them understand what the journey will look like, because as I think the both of you know much better than I do, there's a lot of common threads of that, what all entrepreneurs go through, what all startups go through. It doesn't matter what industry that it's, there's a psychological element that is a powerful element of how do we transition through the different phases of growing our business. And therefore, we need to be more than just, technicians of, running businesses. We also need to understand the energy management side of it, because it doesn't really get a lot of attention when you start to frequent, different accelerators and incubators. And, there's a lot of technical advice that is offered. And certainly, it can be very, very good advice, but it's only one side of the dynamic that, creates ultimately successful businesses, and businesses that, can be a sustained effort. I see a lot of, mental health issues and burnout that happen far too quickly in sometimes great companies. And, so I know what kind of like some of those feelings feel like, because I've gone through them in the past where I've maybe sacrificed too much, that, I've, come out the other end of it okay. But, I think it's being able to impart those experiences. Hopefully it creates some kind of meaningfulness and something of value for other entrepreneurs.
Mark, you have a 9-month-old. You look fairly well rested considering, and you're involved in at least 3 businesses in the startup, maybe even growth phase in some, and helping others. What are some of those energy management systems that you've introduced into your life to help you seem so calm right now, given all that you have going on? Selfish question there.
I think one of the greatest gifts that I was ever given, a very fortuitous meeting of an individual who was a practitioner, a teacher of transcendental meditation. And this came at a critical point in my life. It was the right time and place. And, I knew nothing about meditation at the time. This was like 25 years ago. And I was going through some struggles, and he said, I think you should learn how to meditate. And I didn't really react, too strongly about that, but he said, and I can teach you for free. was great because I had no money. A normal kind of this particular course, I think at the time was like $1,600, which was just a huge amount of money in my eyes, and there's no way I could have afforded that. So that's why I say this is a wonderful gift. I learned meditation, and I thought I would, like a lot of things in my life, like I'm a little bit ADD, so unless it's really engaging for me, I tend to lose interest after a little while. So I kind of saw this meditation practice is going to last 3, maybe 6 months. I'd be very proud if I could do it for 6 months, and I've been doing it for 25 years. So that really sets the tone for my day. I get up in the morning, and it's the first thing I do. I'll meditate for about 45 minutes to an hour, and it's not like I'm sitting there kind of planning out. Here's all the important philosophies and best practices, and positive affirmations is nothing. Transcendental meditation is really the art of doing nothing. And I think there's something really, really valuable about knowing that the body has the most tremendous ability to unravel all the energies that are not, synced up and flowing right, when you just let it. And sometimes, even when we think we're doing positive, actions towards bettering, our current kind of internal energy state, sometimes we either don't focus on the right thing, or we're forcing a particular effect that is not the right thing at the time. So just being able to let go and just say, okay, body, I'm getting out of the way, and I'm going to let you do your thing. And so that's, I think, the beauty of maybe many forms of meditation, but transcendental meditation, it's truly, truly the art of doing nothing. I liken it to, like, if you have a sponge in your hand, you grip that sponge, right? These are the subtle tensions that we carry in our bodies, in our lives, in our relationships, for long periods of time. And I think, the sponge becomes a bit deformed, right? It's not its natural geometry. So the art of kind of releasing that grip on that sponge allows it to unfold and become its proper expression, how it needs to show up in this world. So that's been a huge element of kind of my personal, and then obviously it flows into my professional life as well. I did find my energy management was a bit strained, though, in the past couple of years. But when you do have something like a meditation practice, you always become aware. So as long as you're aware, you can actually take some action to do something a little bit differently. So I'm now in this kind of phase of setting up the proper team dynamics in the various companies, so that I'm not, a day-to-day operator. It's not what I saw as part of this next chapter in my journey, and more kind of thinking and operating more broadly across an ecosystem of very synergistic, companies. Outside of that, going for walks. Doesn't matter if it's the Halifax waterfront or a walk in the park. Just sometimes being close to nature is enough for me to kind of allow my brain to kind of unwind at the end of the day. That's super important. Trying to eat, not to satisfy my cravings, but actually trying to really nurse my body. Haven't been doing so well at that lately, because we just moved, and there was a whole lot of things at once. So, I definitely sometimes fall back a little bit, but catch myself and, course correct. So generally, there's nothing complex or complicated that I do, but I think we all appreciate the importance of kind of energy management and some of the simple tools. Often it is the simple tools that give us the most benefit, and that's a little bit kind of like what I try to incorporate into my days.
That's what I
Nice to
was going
hear,
to
even
say.
with the longevity of those practices, you speak to the challenges of those as well, and kind of the things that can interfere and the ups and downs along the way. I love what you've said, that as long as you're aware, you can always make a different choice. Great advice. Really taking that in and letting the sponge unwind.
Marc, we are close to time, and we know you're busy with many things, and I appreciate you setting out some time with us today. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to? And I guess maybe more importantly, like, what other message would you like to share with aspiring or current entrepreneurs who are either in the trenches or on the top of the mountain? Do you have any more advice for them before we part ways today?
I think with the world we live in, it's, you just got to keep encouraging entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs that, like, dream it and go build it. It's we need systems level change. We need lots of new ideas. We need a diversity of ideas. So I am super encouraged that we're seeing more female representation, persons of color. We need to make sure that we give them the proper level of support, because they're coming into a dynamic that has not been as supportive to those individuals. And it's not just about opening the door for them. It's really about making sure that you acknowledge the challenges that they still face, and that you can provide the proper level of support to make sure that they have equal opportunities to make their dreams come true. And and I think that's the big shift that we need to see now. We need a greater diversity and representation across what we define as entrepreneurs. And I still have lots of hope that there will be great outcomes, for the world. It seems kind of bleak sometimes, but I think there's equally lots of bright lights out there.
Awesome, Marc. Well, I want to acknowledge your courage and drive, tenacity, vision, all the things that you needed to do to get where you are today. We all know as entrepreneurs, it's not easy. Congratulations on all your success and all your future success. And thank you for inspiring us local entrepreneurs to be successful as well. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. Nice to spend this time with you too.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on episode 39 of the Interesting People You Meet with Marc St-Onge. Have a great day, everyone.